This is Smart Consulting Sourcing, the only podcast about consulting procurement or how to buy consulting services. You'll get tips on how to use consulting, buy consulting, and managing the consulting. And now your host, Ellen Lafitte.
Welcome back to another episode of Smart Consulting Sourcing, your go-to podcast for all things consulting procurement. I'm your host, Ellen, and I'm thrilled to have you join me on our quest to master the art of buying consulting services like a pro. Today, we're diving into a topic of great power and potential, negotiation. So this episode, we are going to explore some fundamental concepts that can make a significant difference in your negotiation prowess. Get ready to uncover the sectors of BATNA, ZOPA, and discover how to identify saving opportunities within consulting proposal. But before we immerse ourselves in the world of negotiation, let's take a moment to reflect on our journey so far. In our previous episode, we laid the groundwork for successful negotiations by discussing the prerequisites. So let's recap these key points. Team composition, ensure that the right individuals are involved in the negotiation process, including the procurement lead, project manager, project sponsor, and key stakeholder from finance and strategy for a larger project. Separate personal from professional. Keep personal relationship aside during negotiations and consider bringing another person to the table to maintain objectivity. Do your homework. Thoroughly research the consulting firm and review any previous engagements or negotiation with them to inform your approach. And then define your strategy. Establish your negotiation strategy and tactics, including initiating discussions, identifying escalation points, and anticipating potential concessions and reaction. And you need also to understand decision-making authority. Clarify the decision-making power of the other party to avoid frustrating, surprise, and vetoes, and consult with your stakeholders if necessary. So before we delve into the intricacy of negotiations, I want to take a moment to remind you that you can access all of previous episodes on the major podcast platform, whether you prefer to listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Samsung Podcasts, watch the episodes on YouTube, or read on the thought leadership section of our website, consultingquest.com. So if you're tuning in for the first time or want to revisit any of our insightful discussions, you can easily access our entire archive and stay up to date with the latest tips and strategies for smart consulting sourcing. But today we are entering the fascinating world of negotiation. We are diving headfirst into this captivating topic. But before we begin, let's address the elephant in the room, theory. Now, I understand that theory can sometimes be daunting, but I promise to make it as painless and engaging as possible. So, to set the stage for our discussion, let's introduce two important concepts that will serve as our guiding principles, BATNA and ZOPA. So these concepts provide a valuable framework for structuring your negotiation approach, helping you navigate the complex dynamics of the negotiation process. So I will use a real-life example to illustrate the application of BATNA and ZOPA in a consulting project. So let me introduce you to NewCo, a utility company based in the United States. NewCo has been facing challenges with increasing operational costs and revenue pressure, prompting the need to reinvent its operating model. To address these issues, the executive management team at NewCo has decided to embark on a two-phase project consisting of a diagnosis phase followed by implementation. Quite, classic organization. After a thorough RFP process, they have chosen to work with their incumbent consulting partners, a reputable firm known for its comprehensive services and extensive market presence. The selection was driven by the confidence placed in the senior partner leading the project and the existing customer intimacy, which is expected to accelerate the project's progress. BATNA, or best alternative to a negotiated agreement, is a crucial concept in negotiations. It represents the fallback option or alternative course of actions if the current negotiation reaches an impasse. Before entering into negotiation process, it's essential to identify and evaluate the alternatives, also known as the no-deal options. To determine the BATNA, each alternative is carefully assessed to calculate its expected value. The objective is to select the course of action with the highest expected value. The BATNA serves as a benchmark against which the proposal deal can be evaluated. In addition to BATNA, it's crucial to establish your reservation value, which is the lowest value deal that you're willing to accept. If the proposed deal falls below your reservation value, it's better to reject the offer and pursue your BAT. On the other hand, if the final proposal exceeds your reservation value, accepting the offer becomes a valid option. In the case of NewCo, they are conducted a rigorous RFP process and have 3 strong finalists. In the event of a negotiation deadlock or a failed agreement, they have identified John Doe Consulting as a reliable alternative. NewCo has discussed the pricing aspect of the project, which is divided in 2 phases. They aim to shorten the first phase from 8 to 5 weeks and lower the price from phase 1 from 125 to 50K and from phase 2 to 380 to 300. So the total project is 400,000. So NewCo has established reservation value of 6 weeks and 75K for phase 1, and they aim to shorten the first phase from 8 to 5 weeks and lower the price for phase 1 from 125K to 50K, and phase 2 from 380 to 300K, which a total of 400K as a budget. So NewCo has established reservation values of 6 weeks and 75K for phase 1 and 350K for phase 2. These values serve as critical thresholds to guide the decision-making during the negotiation process. Understanding and leveraging BATNA and reservation values empowers NewCo to negotiate effectively, ensuring that any potential deal aligns with their objective and provides the expected value. It's an important strategic approach that helps them navigate the negotiation process and secure the best possible outcome. So armed with the knowledge of BATNA and reservation values, NewCo is ready to engage in negotiations, seeking to optimize the project terms and achieve their desired results. So in negotiations, both parties involved have their own BATNAs and ZOPA, right? The zone of possible agreement helps determine the range of acceptable deals for both sides. The ZOPA represent the overlap or common ground between the 2 parties' BATNAs. The ZOPA demonstrate the potential value that can be created in the deal. When you ultimately land within the ZOPA, that determines how much of the value you can capture for yourself. It's an important indicator of the negotiation's potential outcome. In the case of NewCo and consulting partners, the consulting firm has submitted a high price for the project. As the incumbent, they have rarely faced relevant competition from other firms when working with NewCo. However, this time, NewCo is determined to work with the best consulting firm available, signaling their seriousness about this project. Understanding the significance of securing the account, consulting partners is willing to lower the price to retain the business. They have offered a revised price of 90K for phase 1 with the same scope, but a reduced timeline to 3 weeks, and 300K for phase 2. Upon clear examination, it becomes clear that NewCo and consulting partners have a ZOPA for phase 2, indicating potential agreements on the terms. However, a ZOPA does not exist for phase 1, requiring both parties to consider a trade-off or find alternative solutions. Analyzing the ZOPA is crucial for NewCo as they navigate the negotiation process. They must assess the trade-offs involved in carefully consider the options to achieve the desired outcomes while maintaining the project's value. As negotiations progress, it will be essential for NewCo or consulting partners to explore creative solutions and potentially compromising to bridge the gap between the ZOPA and find a mutually beneficial agreement. So the ZOPA provides a framework for understanding the potential areas of agreement and the scope for negotiation. By leveraging this concept effectively, NewCo can work towards securing a favorable deal while maximizing the value and benefits they receive from this consulting engagement. So we've been discussing, the concept of ZOPA and BATNA, mainly in the context of price negotiation, but it's essential to remember that negotiating consulting services go way beyond just the price. So now let's broaden our perspective. You need to understand your priorities and how they relate to scope and price. What compromises are you willing to make? It's essential to determine the trade-off and find the best middle ground that aligns with your objectives. When you're scoping a project, start with the must-have and consider your budget and perceived value. Explore different options and combination of scope and price that best suit your needs. Keep in mind that scope and fee are inversely related. You can reduce the scope to fit your desired fee or increase the fee for a broader scope. During the negotiation between NewCo and consulting partners, an agreement has been reached for phase 2 at 350. However, phase 1 is still under discussion. Consulting partners has reduced the price to 90K and the timeline to 6 weeks, but they are unwilling to go any lower. There's explained that the internal diagnosis and external interviews have already put them close to their cost limits. At a compromise, they suggest narrowing the scope of the external benchmark to meet the client's request of 75K and shortening the diagnosis phase to 5 weeks. So the NewCo's executive convened to evaluate the opportunity. Upon reviewing the proposal from the consultant, they realized that the price range for phase 1 over 6 weeks is between 80 to 100. So they decide to adjust their reservation value to 90K for 6 weeks. However, they emphasize the importance of the external benchmark and ask consulting partners to put in an extra effort for phase 2. So after careful consideration, an agreement is reached, with phase 1 set at 90K for 6 weeks and phase 2 at 315K. Negotiation consulting services require a thoughtful assessment of priority and trade-offs and alignment with your budget. And by understanding the relationship between scope and fee and being open to finding common ground, then you can secure an agreement that meets your needs and maximizes the value of the consulting agreement. Now, let's explore some additional areas where potential savings can be found within a consulting proposal. While adjustments to scope duration, daily rate, and staffing often contribute to significant savings, there are other avenues worth exploring. As experienced consultants handling multiple projects each month, we've learned how to decode proposals and identify potential saving pools. So now, take a closer look at how travel expenses are handled in the proposal. Some consultants include them as additional expenses, while others offer an all-inclusive price where expenses are already accounted for. Depending on the project travel requirement, you may consider excluding travel expenses from the proposal and billing them separately. And in that case, it's visible to enforce your own travel policies and seek upon validation for larger expenses. Also, keep an eye out for any additional percentage added to the proposal to cover SG&A expenses such as copies, telephones, and other miscellaneous items. This category presents an opportunity for negotiation. I think it can be a starting point for price discussion. 5% discount in this area can please the procurement team and contribute to the saving target. So don't hesitate to challenge these expenses. They are also evaluate whether you truly require all the expert data included in the proposals. And if so, consider whether their presence is needed to extend budget. Sometimes slightly reducing the number of expert consultants assigned to a project can result in significant savings without compromising the project's success. Many proposals assume that the entire team will start at full capacity from day one. However, in reality, not everyone may be ready to hit the ground running immediately. And so optimizing the ramp up and ramp down period can help aligning resources allocation with the project needs. And that can lead to substantial cost saving. If the proposal includes external expenses like market research or expert interview, you can explore the possibility of paying this directly, because as a larger company, you may be in a stronger position to negotiate better pricing and avoid additional markups imposed by the consulting firm. When you scrutinize this area within a proposal, you can uncover additional opportunities for saving. But remember that it's essential to balance cost optimization with the overall value and quality of the consulting services that are being provided. Stay proactive in your negotiation and don't hesitate to seek alternative approaches that align with your specific needs and budget. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. So let's summarize the key takeaway. Before entering into negotiations, define your best alternative to a negotiated agreement, BATNA. This involves identifying fallback options and evaluating the value of pursuing each alternative. Then determine the zone of possible agreement, the ZOPA, representing the range of deals acceptable for both parties. Understanding the ZOPA helps identify the potential for agreement and value creation in the negotiation. Now, gather the team that you need and define your negotiation objective. Design a strategy that aligns with your BATNA and maximizes value within the ZOPA. Address the key element of the proposal, such as scope, valuable expertise, and project durations. Negotiate to ensure a favorable outcome that meets your objectives. Scrutinize the detail of the proposal to identify potential areas for cost savings. Consider factors such as travel expenses, project ramp-up, rundown, experts' time, and external expenses, and negotiate to optimize value. You'll remember, effective negotiations is key to securing the best consulting services and achieving your desired outcomes while maximizing value, because that's how you improve the ROI of your consulting spend. There you go. So next week, we will tackle a topic that doesn't get much attention, but is actually super important, giving feedback to the consulting firms that didn't make the cut. Yeah, I know it's not something that's done often, but trust me, it's worth it. And I'll explain why it matters and give you some tips on how to do it right, even if you're short on time. So make sure you join us for some valuable insight on this often overlooked part of the negotiation process. So till then, stay safe and keep up the smart sourcing game. If you have any question or need further assistance with consulting procurement, you can find me on LinkedIn or email me, because I'm always game for a chat. Au revoir and happy sourcing.
You've been listening to Smart Consulting Sourcing, the only podcast about consulting procurement. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, hit the website at consultingquest.com. Find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. For questions and comments, send an email to ellen.lafitte@consultingquest.com. See you next time.